Watch a little bit of
Let's
this.
get into it right now with Hassan versus Orbiters. Okay. So let's show you guys the PP, right? I'm going to whip out my PP here, guys. And by the way,
big
make sure you
PP!
smash the like button, regardless of how you feel about the PP. Make sure you smash the like button. It's very, very important.
Yeah, hit that legal mindset.
Also consider sharing this out on social media. Big continuation of Kline copyright infringement lawsuit, not defamation.
So what happened is that Ethan Kline set up a video. He went and got it actually like protected under copyright law, and he waited for these women, those women this go around, to do what they always do, which is make posts on Reddit saying to watch their video, watch them stream the video, so that way they don't have to give the views to Ethan Kline. Ethan Kline watched all their streams, found out that they were just straight up leaving in the middle of segments, or were so freaking high that they couldn't do anything, and weren't really commentating over the videos. He slapped them all with lawsuits. And he also subpoenaed the Reddit records as well. So that's pretty much everything caught up so far. They also, all of them, had GoFundMes that brought in a whole bunch of money. And from what I understand, Denims is already throwing her Reddit moderators under the bus. So they're going to have to be facing their own legal repercussions from this. And it's just been a complete total shit show.
Not
Rip Bozo.
Not defamation, not, criminal, whatever. Frogan. Now we're not Rogi Yogi has a, which is going to be a potential conflict of interest with adverse statements against each other. So that's potentially problematic.
So they're all filing statements against each other.
Settlement arrangement, right? The settlement for one could involve selling out the other. So I think their lawyer has a conflict, but somehow magically that lawyer agreed to this, and both of these girls agreed to this, which is very, very insane that this happened. Potentially problematic.
That's okay.
These two girls have answered the complaint, which means they received the initial legal paperwork and they wrote back. They said, "Here's how we respond." And what I want you
so both of them will probably end up going to court. If they hadn't responded, then they would have Ethan would have automatically won.
Understand when we look at this, their defense is that Denims filed her answer on the 14th and Casey Tron filed on the 15th. So this is something that happened just a couple days ago, right? So it's very fresh legally. Almost nobody has covered this. Certainly people haven't read it in detail. And what I did was I read the entire document, both of them. And I looked at what they had in common, and I wanted to, just so you understand, an answer has two things. It has a section which talks about the paragraphs in the complaint, and they go paragraph by paragraph, and they say, we agree with this paragraph, we disagree with this paragraph, or we don't legal conclusion, and we cannot. Whether they agree, that part is boring. What we're going to talk about is the second part of the answer, where they go into what's called affirmative defenses. So these are the defenses that they are raising to Ethan Kline's lawsuit.
Okay, so this is their we did it for X, Y, and Z reasons, so you can't sue us. Kind of like fair use. Fair use would be a defense against a copy strike.
Even if Ethan Kline is right, I'm going to get a law. I'm going to explain to you what each of those defenses is. What Denims is. There is hope. It is not in the favor of Denims and Casey Tron. It does not look good. But I'm going to tell you one. Responses are very generic, mostly non-committal denials. But
let's be honest here. They should just settle out of court. But from what I understand, if Ethan goes to court with these people, there's a good chance that whatever money they make from YouTube, he's going to garnish it, at least a portion of it. That's what he wants to do. He wants these people to suffer financially hardcore.
Affirmative defenses are interesting. So we're going to focus on what's interesting, because I don't like doing boring. And I'll show you, for example, this is the Denims complaint, right? I'll show you what I mean by boring. And I'm going to talk about this and here's the beginning of the document of the answer. Contains legal conclusions to which no response is required. Defendant denies the allegations in paragraph 2. Paragraph 3, defendant lacks sufficient knowledge. Paragraph 4, defendant denies. Legal conclusion.
She's too stupid to, is this the lawyer saying this?
Legal conclusions, lacks knowledge, admits. So once again, in 10, they admit that. So you'd have to go back there and say, okay, what did they say? By the way, usually the only thing they admit is their name and where they live. Typically, that's it. Typically, they don't emit anything else other than their name. And that's all. That's what they'll agree to. Because that's kind of failure. Unclean hands, waiver, inequitable conduct.
What is all this?
At the time. Now, I'm not saying it's negligent, but I'm saying it's very creative, if you know what I'm saying. Some of the defenses, because they just pulled them out of nowhere, and literally there are certain defenses they use that aren't even real in this area of law. I'm going to say that again, because I think you need to process this. Some of these defenses don't even exist for copyright infringement. It's as if this lawyer doesn't have a lot of experience in copyright infringement, or he wants to try some crazy stuff. And he's just throwing spaghetti at the wall and he sees what sticks. I'm not saying he's committing malpractice or he's not competent. I'm just saying it's very creative. We're going to use that word. Very creative. That's all. So let's get into
he's just really good.
This is the wrong one. Boop, let me continue. First, failure to state a claim. Okay. So this is the first of the affirmative defenses. So the first affirmative defense is failure to state a claim. What failure to state a claim is it says, even if all the facts are true, establish extremely weak argument. Yes, you can make the argument. It's not an impermissible or impossible argument, but it's extremely weak, and the likelihood of success is cope. The likelihood of success is cope for the affirmative defense of failure to state this message. It's not going to of all defenses. And I give it a 5 out of 10, which is the most I'm going to give for any of the affirmative defenses. So if accused copyright infringement, use of the copyrighted material falls under the fair use exception and is therefore not infringement. This is a 5 out of 10. It is a toss-up, but the odds are in Kline's favor. So I would say, if you really had to say, okay, in terms of arguments, because my strength of argument means, is this a killer argument? Is it like totally a winner? And did they make it persuasively, or did they?
I'm kind of shocked that even though they got up and left during the video, in some cases, they could still use fair use. That's kind of crazy that you could still, there's like a 50-50 chance that you could win.
They've got some facts that would be very generous.
That says a lot.
Maybe you could argue, but it's not as strong. Toss up in Kline's favor. Okay, next, express license. What this means is, did Ethan Kline give Casey Tron and Denims permission expressly to write it? So a plaintiff cannot claim infringement against a defendant who uses plaintiff's copyrighted work if the plaintiff granted the defendant an express license to use the work. So if you said, you can use this, it's okay, you can copy this, then you've got, I think this or specific. Now, second best defense in everything. The second best defense. Not perfect, but the second best. So you could argue about permission. And once again, the defense is permission, but it's in generous ranking, a very generous ranking. Once again, I'm trying to be fair and professional, and I'm trying not to be biased here. So I'm trying to be very generous. Direct traffic. So I think it's going to be difficult.
That's kind of the thing that really kind of locks in fair use, is that a lot of people, they strike your videos because they think that it takes views away from the video. You do realize that if somebody who hasn't seen your video but watches reaction stuff, watches a reaction channel talk about something, they're going to go and watch the video and probably find more of your content. Like, it's broadening your audience. Even XQC for the longest time was against reaction stuff, and he's dipped his fingers in it and he understands it now. It just blows my mind how somebody could be so ignorant about something. But in this instance, this is to catch a rat in a trap. Ethan is trying to get these people their just desserts.
He hasn't waived anything. But estoppel is a concept which prevents a plaintiff from asserting a legal claim.
But it doesn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't take views away. They weren't going to watch your content anyway because YouTube wouldn't have promoted it to them.
Claim that contradicts their prior actions or statements, particularly if it would be unfair to the defendant. So it's sort of like an implied license. So you could say, okay, because of the conduct, okay, this is a funny one. Justification and excuse. So estoppel and justification or excuse is a part of that, but right?
I think Denims and Frogan, I think they're all cooked, man. I think
remember
toast.
That we're not even talking about. What's funny there? Okay, unjust enrichment. One party was unfairly benefited from him. He didn't make anything. Completely brain dead. It's near impossible. I give it a 0. And they're trying to argue he waited too long. That's their argument. It's fully within the statute of limitations. Like fully within the statute of limitations. This argument is like, you're clearly just throwing this out there, which once again, I need to make this clear. The lawyer is not doing anything illegal. He is entitled.
They're trying to say, I guess they're trying to say that Ethan waited too long to hit them with the copyright
to make these
lawsuit.
Defenses. But I'm also entitled to tell you that these defenses are absolute doggy doo-doo, because they are doggy doo-doo. A big steaming pile, not just a little Chihuahua pile. It's a Great Dane sized pile of doggy doo. So let's just continue.
Dude, that's funny.
There is no way this argument wins. It's a 0 because it's properly registered. You have all the proof of proper registration. So once again, I think he just copy pasted a list or just threw everything at the wall, but this is going to be absolutely blown out of the water. So lack of notice. Defendants were unaware and could not have known about the lawsuit. Therefore, it should not be held liable. This is one I wanted to give another 0 as well. How are you going to be answering premises liability? So for example, this one typically works, for example, if you walk onto somebody's property and they have an alligator pit and they fall in the alligator pit. So if I, as a Florida man, right, if I build in my Florida man house, in Kissimmee, right, I build an alligator pit and I hide it under some leaves and you fall in the alligator pit and I didn't tell you there's an alligator pit, but I invited you over. You'd say, hey, I had lack of notice, right? I know I did it. This
stinks.
Or if there's something I should have told you about. Right. For example, let's say I had a bunch of plants that were really made of super brittle glass that if you touch the plant, they would shatter in a million pieces. And you touch the plant, it shatters, and I sue you. And you could say, well, I have lack of notice. You should have notified me not to touch the plant. So let's continue with the rest of the defenses.
What the fuck? So hold on. Is that really dude? This defense stinks. They're done. There's no way.
Sorry, we got cope.
There's no way. They're done.
By license, unlikely. Express license, unlikely. Fair use, the only toss-up, and failure to state a claim of culp. You can see without
their best argument's going to be fair use. It always is when it comes into this. I think that they're done. Their defense is terrible. Bro's trying to make up new laws so that way, dude. There's no way, man. There's no way. They're cooked. They're done.